Being here this Friday evening. So today we have a very practical and relevant topic of discussion, which is how to think of Krishna at work, how to be Krishna conscious at work. And this is not a new problem, so to speak. The problem is as old as time. It's as old as this universe. So in the second canto of the Bhagavatam, when Brahma is first given this responsibility of building the universe. At that time, he's the only, other than Lord Vishnu, he's the only entity and the only jiva in the universe. And then he prays to Lord Vishnu that when I start my work, I'll get so busy in it. And then I will be creating these planets and all these species, and I'll become totally absorbed in it. And then I will be filled with pride. So, yeah, you had Indulekha, you wanted?
Yes, just want to confirm you've turned on Facebook.
Yeah, I turned on Facebook. So he said that I'll be filled with pride. So, can you give me some solution as to how can I be protected? So, does anybody remember what was the solution that Lord Vishnu gave Brahma? So he gave a very simple solution. So he said that simply by thinking of me while you are working, pride will never overtake you. So this is Brahma, who's basically doing work that's a lot more important than most of the work that we are doing, even though we sometimes think that our work is at the same level, but Brahma is Brahma. He's creating planets, he's creating species, he's creating all the forces of nature. So the solution that Lord Vishnu gives him is also applicable for us. That if you are able to think of Krishna while we are working, then we will never let work overcome us. So that's the premise of the discussion today. That it's something that is very important. If Krishna gave this instruction to Brahma, it is more so applicable for us. But one way or the other, we all work, and during work, we have different roles and responsibilities. Sometimes we are bewildered, sometimes we become proud that I am, and you can fill in the blank, I'm this, I'm that. And then it covers a consciousness. So simply by remembering Krishna, we can protect ourselves. Now, one question that can be asked at this time is that why do we even have to struggle with this? So how many times does a mother think that I need to think of my child? right? They don't make notes for themselves saying that, or reminders that at 10 a.m. I should be thinking of my child, or evening before this time I should think of my child. Similarly, how many times does one who is in a loving relationship with a partner have to remind himself or herself that I have to think? It happens naturally. But the fact that we are asking this question, that how can we think with Krishna, what is the premise that comes out of it? The premise is that we are unable to naturally think about Krishna, right? You'll never see a mother, asking this question, that give me some tips and techniques on how to remember my child. Right? They might ask for the opposite also. They say that I get so involved thinking about my child that I'm not able to focus at my work, right? But never that give me some techniques on how to remember my child. That's because there's a lot of natural love between the mother and the child. And the reason why we want to make this effort to think about Krishna is because that love is lacking, right? And there's nothing to be ashamed about. I mean, the fact that we are in this material world, that itself is testimony to the fact that we have turned our back to Krishna, that the love is not there, and that's what makes it difficult for us to think about Krishna. So let's reduce the problem. The problem of not being able to think about Krishna at work is actually the problem that we do not love Krishna, or we do not love Krishna to the extent that our mind goes naturally to him. There's a pastime in one of the Puranas, and there are different kinds of Puranas. Some are Rajasic, some are Tamasic. I don't know which Puran it is from, but I heard this pastime of an interaction between Lord Krishna and Narad Muni. That Narad Muni once goes to Krishna, and then he says that there is no devotee in this whole world that is higher than me. I am your topmost devotee. And Krishna says, really? How's that? And he says, I'm always engaged in chanting your name, or speaking about you, or preaching about you. So Krishna says, okay, that's good. But there is one devotee that I think is even higher than you. So Narad Muni, he's very startled. He said, really? Which devotee? So Krishna says, and he shows him a farmer. He says, that farmer. So Narad Muni goes and spies on that farmer. And then after conducting his surveillance, he comes back to Krishna and he says, Krishna, you are God, but this time you are mistaken. He says, why? He says, well, because I observed that farmer, and morning to evening he's busy at work. He's tending to his cows, tending to his field, cleaning, and I did not see him chant one round of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Did not see him do any deity worship. So Krishna said, what else did you see? He said, yeah, I noticed that he was chanting your name while he was doing all this. But me, all I am doing is chanting your name. So, I am definitely a higher devotee. You're wrong, Krishna. So Krishna says that, can you do something for me? Rama said, yes, of course. So Krishna says, you see that hill over there? So you take this pot and you fill it to the brim with oil. You put it on your head and then you walk around the hill, making sure that not a single drop of oil will spill. Rama says, okay, if you want me to do it, I'll do it, because I'm a great devotee of yours. So he takes the pot, fills it with oil, and very, very carefully, slowly walks around the hill. And then he comes running to Krishna and says, say, not a single drop of oil was spilled. Krishna said, that's very good. How long did it take for you to do this? So it took me a couple of hours because I had to walk slowly. Krishna said, how long were you thinking about me while you were doing that? Namu said, no, I was just so busy making sure that the pot is balanced and the oil is, I'm walking steadily. Krishna says, that's the difference. That farmer, he's engaged all day in his work and he's doing his work excellently. He takes care of his animals with so much of love. He's taking care of his land. But at the same time, he is constantly thinking about me. So then Narad Muni understands that the reason that farmer was able to think about Krishna all the time, because he had so much of love for Krishna, that it became a natural state of existence for him. That he did not have to endeavor for it. Now, again, because I said this is from one of the Puranas, because Narad Muni is Narad Muni, we know that he's a pure devotee. Maybe this pastime was only to demonstrate this lesson. But the message is that one who is able to think about Krishna at all times, whether at work or play, whether in the temple or whether in front of the computer. That is the perfection. So what is the solution to the problem? So Krishna gives us the solution to this in Bhagavad Gita. Right? So in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he tells Arjuna that my best devotee is one who thinks of me all the time, who is meditating on me all the time. And then right after that he says that if you cannot think of me all the time, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, which is Krishna's way of saying that if you cannot be spontaneously attracted to me, then through the regulative principles of Bhakti, you can develop attachment for me. So this is chapter 12, verse 8 and 9. So that's the first thing that we can do to keep ourselves connected with Krishna at work, or let's talk about work. At work is do your sadhana. Krishna says that follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. What is regulative principles? It is sadhana, vaidhi, bhakti. Right? So why is it difficult for, so the result of sadhana is like the fan that is moving. So Prabhupada would give that example that when you unplug the fan, then because of the inertia, it will continue to move. So if we have a strong morning sadhana, then that influence of sadhana will carry us through the day. In temples that are very successful in preaching or in attracting a congregation, the one thing common is that the devotees in the temple have a very strong morning sadhana. They will get up in the morning, attend Mangalarti, chant their 16 rounds, do Guru Puja, greet the deities, do Tulsi Puja, listen to Bhagavatam, take Prasadam. That's the morning sadhana. Right? And Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they have constructed this in a way, and they haven't constructed it. It's based on the Hari Bhakti Vilas coming from Padma Puran. It's been constructed in the way that it's like you wind up a toy and then you leave it, and then gradually the toy unwinds over the day. So the morning sadhana is our winding up to Krishna consciousness. It is basically plugging our fan in, switching on the power, let the fan run in the morning, and then yes, when you go to work it is unplugged, but it is still running, and that carries us through the day. So that is the first recommendation, is to have a strong morning sadhana. Practically speaking, and this is my own personal experience, that after a long day at work, when you come back, chanting rounds is very difficult. The same 16 rounds that you can do very easily in the morning, they feel like 64 rounds in the evening. Each and every round is an endeavor. If you're reading something, morning, your mind just soaks it up, and in the evening, it's like the mind is just regurgitating. It's just throwing it away. Just because you spend the whole day dealing with the modes in one way or the other, and the finer tissues of the brain that are engaged in Krishna consciousness have just been overwhelmed. Let's look at some other things that we can do. So, what are some of the specific reasons why we find it difficult to think about Krishna at work? What are your thoughts? Because all of us are practicing devotees, most of us are working. So what are some of the practical challenges that we face when that makes it difficult to think of Krishna at work?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. For me, in my busy schedule, though when I have a difficult time at work, and like a parrot, sometimes I'm like just in my subconscious mind or whatever mind, I'm like just having like kirtan tune or something going on in my mind, but I don't think I'm consciously thinking about Krishna at all, but that is there somewhere, and I do have kirtan or something going on in my mind, but not really I'm having Krishna in my mind when I'm working, so I feel that I'm not sure how that makes sense.
But that's also good. If something is going on, that's good. Padmini Radha.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think the most challenging thing, and I'm surprised that I'm saying that actually. I've seen over the years, whenever I've dealt with the younger generation, it is very challenging because there is, and it's very sad actually, but there is deteriorating God consciousness in the youth, especially the people that I associate with, at least at work. They do have backgrounds. Some of them have been going to churches, but I think it's not cool to discuss about that. So that is where it gets very difficult to, associate. Most of them are very receptive to hearing about different cultures. And I feel sometimes it is, some of them, I do find common links and common threads in conversation because, in general, some of them are raised piously. But as I said, I don't think, and it could be, I may be wrong, it may not be restricted to an age bracket, but I've seen more so with the younger folks that, they find it very uncool to say, oh, what did you do on Sunday? I went to church. They would rather say, I went to watch a movie or, went for a concert. So, in those situations, I feel it gets difficult to connect. And that is the difficulty. So your question was, what is difficult, right? In terms of connections. Yeah. So that is the difficulty.
Very good point. Very good point. Thank you. Any other thoughts?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. When the work pressure comes, Prabhuji, like this thing has to come in next 30 minutes or 40 minutes, whatever. When that kind of things come, your work pressure goes high, and at that time you forget everything. And sometimes you even do things that like, daily something or other come, at least today some, like this, having work is okay, but not that, this morning only should complete, or next 1 hour this should be complete, or today only I should do. When will this not come? But still, with will and force, we work. And sometimes when you think that, like, oh, I am in an odd situation, so all that time, for sure, I forget. But at the same time, what is surprising is, like, when the thing is not as bad as I think, and people are reacting as normal as it is, and work suddenly happens as expected, then the mind goes to Krishna. Oh, I was thinking so much, but it is not that bad. So, but in that gap during the peak of that stress time, nothing remembers. You just, either how to solve it or why this work came. These kind of thoughts only, but not Krishna. But when good result come, then immediately good result, or at least it was not that a situation as I am thinking. Then immediately I feel that Krishna's blessings, and feel that satisfaction in heart. Oh, you are always saving me, kind of.
Very nice, very nice. Both are good points, Prabhu, that we tend to get absorbed in solving the problems, and then it's good if we can have some sense of gratitude when things go okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Mostly it doesn't go wrong, Prabhu. Like, mostly it's always stress only, but end of the day, somehow Krishna saves is the confidence is slowly gaining. Yeah.
Good, thank you. Padma Manjri, Shri Padma Manjri.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So Prabhuji, kind of Ravi Prabhu covered it, but I was saying on the similar lines, like the nature of the job could be such that it keeps you pretty occupied throughout the day. You could be busy in meetings after meetings, and that could be something, which is not giving you bandwidth to think about anything else. But on the contrary, on same lines, I felt, if I hear to some kind of a lecture, or if I hear to some kind of kirtan in the morning, or if there is very good aarti in the morning, then that's something which will play in my mind throughout the day. I will have that playing in my mind. So as you said, right, morning sadhana, or even I feel if evening also, if I'm able to spend some time doing evening aarti and kirtan, it plays in my mind. So that is a good way.
Thank you. Both excellent points. Adi Govind Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. First of all, thank you for taking this topic. Prabhuji, what challenge I have in remembering Krishna while work? I think my biggest issue is to always think what will please Krishna when I'm working. So, is it practicing humility in certain circumstances versus being aggressive at work? So, I know it's a play of modes that we have to be expert in, and when we try to be expert in that, automatically Krishna consciousness also becomes clearer. So it's a lot to do with my internals. So and that also gives segue into should I find satisfaction in my work, or is it like just complacency? So that's what my issue is.
Thank you, Prabhu. Indulekha.
I just wanted to add to, I relate to Rajsundari and Sri Padma about the part that, when they have done aarti, or I don't work, so my work is whatever my wifely duties or some other whatever I'm doing. So even like, for example, I'm in a grocery store, and on the way I have been hearing, kirtans or some kind of bhajans, that is what I'm humming in my head. And sometimes I without realizing, I'm actually humming. And I'm walking around, browsing in the store, and then I see some people like, staring at me and, wondering what's going on. I'm humming around. And that's not, and now I've reached a point where I think, koi baat nahi, sunne do. Who cares? This is such a beautiful kirtan or such a wonderful bhajan. And so that's my way of, I feel, I feel good about it. That, okay, even though I'm not, like Prasad was saying, I'm not consciously thinking about Krishna, or like Adi Govind is saying, he struggles with whether I'm pleasing Krishna or not. But just I'm doing my duty, and I'm trying to think of Krishna that way indirectly, and hopefully Krishna is pleased.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you so much. Laddu Gopal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for bringing this topic here. So my struggle is a little bit like, when we, especially with the meeting, or even when you are doing, like we do pharmaceutical calculation for the patient dose and other stuff. So it's very difficult to think something else than what you are work at hand. Because if you make a mistake there, it's a serious mistake, so which can give a wrong dose to the patient. So what I feel is like, I take an example of Arjun, right? So Krishna told to Arjun that Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Smarana Yuddhacha. So I was thinking how Arjun can remember Krishna when there are so many arrows are thrown at him. He's constantly fighting. He has to look at them and counteract, or so probably your idea better, I like it if you get rooted in the morning, so that we can be rooted in consciousness, but we cannot be, it's very difficult to be 100% like conscious of Krishna at during the work.
Thank you, Prabhu. Excellent point. Avinash Prabhu?
Oh, of course, I don't work anymore. This is kind of much more relaxing than ever been, But, now after retired, I do meet people, and at different stores like Home Depot and things like that. And whenever there are all sorts of people in this world, some are very nice and some are difficult. So I look at this way, how will Krishna react if it was him, I should be reacting the same manner. This way, it makes me feel better. I see much better results. So that's how I believe ISKCON is really helping me. The Krishna consciousness helps me to react in that manner. The same way that he would react. I give you a very good example. Other day, I had some furniture to be delivered at my home. And the guy comes here. I ask him if he can move this love seat 6 feet away on one side. He said, I can't do that. I'm sorry. You are not prepared. I'm not going to deliver it. So I got heated up too. And when I got heated up, I said, you pick up your stuff and get out. Then I realized, after he left, hey, I shouldn't have done that. That's not the Krishna consciousness, I should have reacted a little bit better, So that's how you feel that Krishna would have reacted a little bit more calm, more, So I learned from that part, That's what I like about this thing. This is how I look at it.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Krishna consciousness can help life.
Excellent point. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing. Vikas, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for picking up and thank you to Bhayahari Govindas Prabhuji for suggesting such a practical topic. I think I'm liking this our recent thing where we are going through so many practical topics which you think. So I just want to share a few thoughts and everybody has shared such a deep realizations. Just to add to those ones, maybe I can think the attitude of gratitude. Most of the time, as we used to say, if something good happens, say Hari Icha, and then if something bad happens, Hari Icha. So you do not know. I think by having that consciousness, you can actually taking you out of the equation and saying okay, whatever is happening to you is God's mercy and God's will. So you accept it with your gratitude, because most of the time everybody, if we realize, right, if we thought we wanted so many things to happen, and we wish so many things to happen, but now if we look back, we think it's good that didn't happen because of that I'm here. Otherwise, I would have been somewhere else. So our wishes and our realization, they are changing every time, every day, right? So it depends on our mood, what we are in, what environment we are in, because our aspiration keep changing each and every day. So God knows what we are doing and then where we have to be, what we really need. I think Krishna definitely knows that, and he have better plans than what we can make for our life. So that's something, just to accept Krishna's will, show gratitude towards him, and it's always say everything, if you have a gratitude attitude, you will be able to, you will automatically would be happy because you would be saying thank you to each and every small thing. So that's how that will make you feel better. You'll try to make good things and everything. Yeah. So that's my tools and their approach. And one difficulty I think I see we having that discipline of getting into that mood all the time, into that gratitude mood. That's definitely being disciplined, getting into that all the time, into that consciousness is definitely it's a lot difficult than it's simpler, but it's not difficult to implement in our day-to-day life, and we are so busy with our day-to-day lives. So it's simple to do, like it's like these simple things are easy to do, but they are really difficult to continue, right? So just keep it simple and just try to remember Krishna as much as we can.
Nice, very nice practical inputs. So I'm going to take like an informal poll. So everybody who really loves their work, if you can raise your hand. Okay. We have Priyanka, Indulekha raising their hand. Okay. So a little bit of.
I raised my hand that I don't have to go out to work.
Okay, got you. So we have Padmini Radha and so.
Not 100% Prabhu, but sometimes you like some kind of, sometimes you don't.
Sometimes you like, sometimes you don't. Correct. So the follow-up question is that then why do we go to work? If it is not something that, with the exception of Padmini Radha, most of us don't like our work, why do we go to work? Laddu Gopal Prabhu?
Because we have to go to work. It's like, who will pay the bills and who will pay the house mortgage.
Exactly.
Family, that's a big.
So we go to work to support the family and support ourselves. We are by ourselves. We have to support ourselves. Now we don't have. We don't have to make an endeavor to think about our family when we are going to work, but nevertheless the primary reason that we are working is to take care of ourselves, to take care of our family. So therein lies the, as they say, therein lies the rub, therein lies the problem, that because we go to work with the understanding that I'm doing this work to take care of myself and my family, so the consciousness will automatically get anchored into two things. One, that I am doing this work, and two, that by doing this work I am taking care of my family. Right? So that is what saturates the consciousness, that I am the doer and that I am the cause of the results of the activity. Right? Because that's what we think when we go to work, is that the majority of us are not very passionately absorbed in that, wow, I have to go to work, I can't survive without working. Most of us are happy, yeah, it's vacation time, or we, work from home, don't have to go to work that much. But we still do it. We still drive ourselves to work, because through working, we think that we are taking care of ourselves and taking care of the family. So as long as we have this doer mentality and enjoyer mentality, we cannot be Krishna conscious. So the basic premise of working is designed to make us not Krishna conscious. Because we go to work with that consciousness that I am doing the work so that I can enjoy the results and I can protect the family. Now, who are we to protect the family? Right? If we were protecting our family, then nothing wrong would ever happen to our family. But it does. That means we are not there, right? So, but that's the mentality. That is the fabric of our engagement, which essentially is the opposite of Krishna consciousness. So what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, verse 47? Right? He says that you have the right to work, but don't think that you are the doer or the enjoyer. So he doesn't say that don't work. Right? He's not saying that tomorrow everybody turns in their resignation and stays home. He says you have the right to work, but not with the consciousness that you are the doer and the enjoyer. So what does that mean? What that means is that if you are able to work in the mode of detachment, I'm doing this work because it's as a grahastha or in this particular ashram, it's my responsibility to work. So I'm going to give it my 100%. But I am not the enjoyer. What does I am not the enjoyer translate from a practical perspective? Practical perspective, what it translates to is that whether the result is good or bad, I don't get bewildered. So I do my work, I get recognition, or I am ignored, or I am criticized. In all three situations, it is the same. My responsibility is to do the work to the best of my ability. So this works at a deeper level now, right? Because now our consciousness has changed. From the consciousness that I am the doer and the enjoyer, the consciousness is that I am neither the doer nor the enjoyer. And the reason Krishna recommends this in Bhagavad Gita is that when one has that consciousness, then Krishna consciousness is ready to enter. So, from a very practical perspective, when you're busy at work, what is the dominant consciousness at that time? That this is a deadline that I have to meet. This is a report that I have to send. This is something that needs to be accomplished. All that, this is, I need to do this so that I can be recognized. I need to do this so that I am not punished. I need to do this so that I can set a good role model for others. So it's all centered around, I need to do this for the sake of me and mine. That's why it's so difficult to think about Krishna. Very difficult to have a seed germinate in dry land. But Krishna gives the solution to that also. Same in the 12th chapter in the Yoga Ladder, he says, firstly he says, just become my devotee, right? Then he says that if you cannot become my devotee, you practice the regulative principles of bhakti, right? We talked about that strong sadhana. Then he says, what else? He says, if you cannot do that, then just work for me. And you will reach the stage of perfection. So what does work for me mean? Prabhupada explains in the purport that Krishna has said that in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, last verse, that working from Krishna means free from the contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation. Fruitive activities means the mentality that I am the doer and I am the enjoyer. A mental speculation is that if I am not there, then maybe Krishna is not there. And maybe my boss is the doer and my family is the enjoyer. Right? So we have different speculation. So if you are able to free this and work in a very simple, I think Vikas Prabhu was using this word a few times and I appreciated it, that work in a simple environment, that I am doing this work only because it is my duty, but Krishna is giving me the power to do the work, and the results that are coming are also because of the blessings of Krishna. So our hearts and our mind are automatically open to Krishna. Right. So first sutra was have strong sadhana. Second sutra is with a philosophical understanding that we are neither the doers nor the enjoyers, but we are only doing it because Krishna has given us the power to do it, and He is giving us the results. Now this will work very well even professionally, because people who are, we have seen that ourselves, that when we are working under pressure, where somebody is saying you need to deliver, our delivery is suboptimal. But when we are more relaxed, when we are more like, I'll take my time and do it, the product is much better that comes out of it. Because when you're working under pressure, all your focus is on yourself. I need to do this, I need to do this. When we are able to work without this burden of being accountable for the deliverable, doesn't mean that you don't work hard. You work hard, but not thinking all the time that, is my boss going to like it? Is this going to get me a promotion? Is this going to get me a raise? That's going to impact your ability to give your best. So even from a material perspective, this works very well. That just by being calm and detached. So that's the second sutra. Let's move on. So we talked about the motivation of work, the execution of work, the enjoyment of the work. Let's talk a little bit about what comes as a result of the work. We get Indra, I'll just go through this and then we can talk. So what comes out of this is we get some wealth. We get maybe we may get some prestige or whatever, but not many people will join an organization where they say you don't get a salary, you just get some prestige, right? You need that's the main motivation. So if we are able to also develop this mentality that whatever I am getting as a result of this work, some part of it is for Krishna. Prabhupada says it's like taking water from the ocean and putting it back on the ocean. Factually speaking, everything is Krishna. But yeah, Krishna has allowed us to take something, and we are giving a small part of it back, right? So in Prabhupada's Leela Amrita, there's a conversation between Prabhupada and Satsvarup Maharaj. Satsvarup Maharaj at that time he was working in the Port Authority of New York, and he was dealing with he had more of a clerical job, but essentially he was dealing with things like people were smuggling contraband or illegal goods, and he had to reconcile that this is what they said in the lading list, this is what they got. So it was a very, very tamasic kind of environment, mostly dealing with criminals. And Satsuru Maharaj went to Prabhupada and said that when I come to the temple, my mind is so much at peace. There's you, and this is when Prabhupada was in 26 Second Avenue. This is in 67, early days. And he says, there's you, there's kirtan, your classes, and then I have to go to work, and I have to deal with such criminals. It's so difficult. So I want to give up my work. And then Prabhupada said that right now you are the only one of my disciples who is working, because all the other disciples are mostly hippies. They would come and eat food and go away. So Satsuru Maharaj at that time, his monthly salary was $650. And he would take his salary and give it to Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada used it to maintain the temple. So Prabhupada said, you are my only disciple who is working. If you give up this work, then think of the service that you're doing to me and to Krishna and to the others over here. And Satsuru Maharaj says that changed his mentality to working. So the work was still tamasic, but he was constantly thinking that the money that I will get out of this work, I am going to use it in the service of my Guru and other Vaishnavas. So similarly, if you are able to build this habit in us, a small portion of what we get out of work, we give it to Krishna. So next day when we go to work, then that is in our mind, that yes, this work is whatever it is challenging, but because of this work, I am able to, and then fill in the blank, give something to the temple, serve the devotees, give something to Goshala, whatever that is being done there. So, that's the third step, is to take some money that we are getting from work and give it to Krishna. That will make us automatically more Krishna conscious at work. Because we at least, if not explicitly, implicitly in our mind, we will have this understanding that some part of what this endeavor is being used in the service of Guru and Krishna. So in interest of time, I wanted to have some discussion on this, but I see that we're running out of time. So in the interest of time, I have two more sutras that can help, and that are more in the realm of being tips and techniques. So the fourth is something that Ramapad Maharaj gives as an answer many times when people ask this question to him, that when I go to work I can't think of Krishna and I feel guilty. And then he says that as devotees, especially as practicing devotees, we are essentially performing bhakti with our senses, right? That's what sadhana Vedi bhakti is. So we can use the same sensory interaction to remind us of Krishna. So whether we can put pictures of Krishna in our office space, whether we can play music sometime. At my work environment, it's become very fashionable now. Almost everybody has music playing. And this was pre-COVID time when people were coming, but almost everybody would have this earphone on and some kind of music playing. It's kind of interesting. I was somebody sent me this link to this interesting, or it's more like a funny article, that like a teenage daughter, she's taking a video of her mother doing work, and her mother is sitting and it looks like she's reconciling some ledgers, and and it's like a video, and she's shooting the video, and 30 seconds, 60 seconds, mother is working, and then after that the daughter says that, can you imagine? There is no music playing, there is no video games, and that's how my mother works. Can somebody even work like that? And people had like comments after that, like, yeah, she's, like one person says that typically when I'm working, I have video playing at one, I have music playing at one end, I have my video game at the other end. Every time I take a break, I go to my video games, and the whole concept of like working, just working, is apparently it's apparently dated now. We can use that in to our benefit. That if people are playing some other music, we can play some music that reminds us, whether it is kirtans or lectures. Lectures are a little difficult because you need to focus on them. But Prabhupada lectures you can play, but Prabhupada lectures tend to be just by hearing his voice. And also he tends to speak very simply. So creating physical cues. Prabhupada Maharaj says that you can have a screensaver that reminds you of something, pastime. There are actually now Krishna conscious screensavers that you can download, which will go through different pastimes of Krishna or Mahaprabhu's pastimes. There is music. You can put pictures of your deities in your house, or anything else that reminds you, right? Because it's just an impetus to our senses. It's like they say that in the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami gives this example that a mother is always thinking of the child. That's the natural that's the steady state consciousness. But sometimes when she is working, and then she sees, and he's talking about his time, if she sees a nupur means an anklet bell. If she sees a nupur of the child that is lying there, then her thought about the child, it intensifies to many degrees. The child is not there, just the ankle bell of the child. So this is known as udipan. This is known as impetus to ecstasy. So maybe we are thinking of Krishna all the time or not, but these small things, they can act as udipans. They can act as impetus, right? So that's the fourth thing. The fifth is that one of the most powerful catalyst in us thinking about Krishna is the association of devotees. So if you are able to create an opportunity to associate with devotees at work. For instance, I think if not all of the Matajis, but most of the Matajis, at 1:30 you have a virtual reading session. It's only 30 minutes, but it's in the middle of the work day, and it basically, so it's not just that 30 minutes. So before that 30 minutes starts, then at least then that thought starts coming, that now I have a call to make, and we will be reading Bhagavatam, and we are now reading the pastime of whatever. So that thought starts coming even before. And then after you read, then the thought stays after that, right? So with this technology that is advancing, there's this ability also to connect, if not physically is difficult, but virtually. I remember when we were in our previous apartment, then the person who used to live underneath, in the apartment below us, he was part of some spiritual group, somebody, I forget. And they had this app that was synchronized with all the devotees all over the world. And once a day, and this was at a predetermined time, that app would go bing. And when that app would go bing, then that was the instruction of their spiritual preceptor. Then everybody would stop whatever they're doing for 60 seconds, think about the Lord, and then resume their work. And then he was saying that it was very powerful, because even though it was just for 60 seconds, but just the thought that thousands of people around the world are doing that. Now, I'm guessing there is some practicality to it, because time zones, and in some cases it might be midnight. I doubt if people get up at midnight, but I didn't go into all the details. But they had this virtual connection, right? And this particular person was very, very particular about it. He says, he was saying that I know when it is coming. So even if I'm in a meeting, I'll just 60 seconds before that, I'll recuse myself, saying that I just need to give me a minute, I'll be back. Right? So he says, just having that thing on the phone and just having that 60 seconds in a day, it basically aligned my consciousness. So before that, I would be thinking this 60 seconds is coming. After that, I would stay with the influence that it is coming. So by creating an opportunity to associate with devotees. So I'll quickly summarize that there were 5 sutras that can help us. One is that we have a strong morning sadhana. 2 is that we work with the understanding that Krishna is empowering us to work, and Krishna is the one that is awarding us the results of the work. 3 is that we are able to offer a part of the money that we're getting from the work for the service of Krishna or his devotees. 4th is that we create physical cues around us to remind us of Krishna. And 5th is that we somehow create opportunities to associate with devotees. And while we do this, in the beginning, it may be a to-do list, but the example is like when we learned how to ride a cycle, then earlier on there was so many to-dos, right? I remember when I started to learn how to ride a cycle, so many instructions were given. Hold on to the handle like this, keep your body straight, don't do this, right? And earlier on, that's what our focus was. But then later on, it becomes second nature to us, right? When you ride a bike, then you just ride a bike. So you're doing all that. All the instructions that were given, that you were consciously doing it, now you do it subconsciously. But the balance is there. So similarly, as we do this earlier on, we may do it consciously, but then over time, it becomes second nature to us. So when we are riding a bike, we are also going from one place to another, right? So the bike is taking us from one place to another. Similarly, being Krishna conscious at work does not mean that our work is not going to be done. Our work will actually be done better now. Right? So while we stay in this mode, naturally we are actually able to even excel at the work. We don't get so much bewildered by the modes that are rampant at work. Okay, so I'll stop over here and see if there's any discussion. Indulekha, you had a point, right? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say to this last part that you just said, although I had something else also to say, is that even though you may be doing some things, in a very focused way and thinking that I'm doing my best, and so the results will be positive. Not necessarily. I would say that because this is just my experience when I was doing Sunday school and during the plays, especially. I would have. You've seen me, and the parents who work with me, they know I try to put in my best, and I would, have everything arranged, and the speaker, the this, the that, the costumes, the parents' responsibility, etc., etc., etc. Everything was, I had to be lined up, and yet at the last moment, when the play was going to happen on the stage, the mic would not work, or the sound system is not set up, or the kids are forgetting the dialogues, or the this or the that. So I've had my call it rude surprises, or call it Krishna's arrangement, or call it Krishna humbling me, reminding me that even though I have done my part, my service to the best of my capability, yet I have to leave the results to him, and which I was not leaving. I was expecting like a wow, and like a super whatever. All the parents still appreciated, and the audience also appreciated. It was kind of them, but it was obviously my expectation was like up there, and I would sometimes like leave the hall crying that, oh my God, Krishna, why did this happen, and why did you do this to me, and why blah blah blah, blah. And but then, my lesson that I learned was that I was not leaving the results to Krishna. So that helped me learn my lesson that I do my devotional service, and then I have to learn to leave the results to Krishna.
That's a very good point. And Krishna wants us to do that.
Yeah, he wants us to do that.
So he'll take us, we have a choice of either walking that path or he'll drag us down that path.
Yeah.
Right? But that's what he wants us to do.
Yeah.
Thank you. Laddu Gopal Prabhu?
Yeah, I think the similar point what Mataji is telling, because when even the slightest, the thought comes that you are doing good here. It happened in last week only to me when I was showing something which I knew it and other 4 people didn't knew, so I could format in those things for them, and then I feel good, and then later on after afternoon again I got repulsed by something else where I made a mistake. So it reminds that Krishna says I am the boss here, not you, in that terms. So my other question was there, why do we really want to or intend to remember Krishna even when you're focusing on your work, because it's kind of conflicting, like how we do Ekadashi and then we give the fruits of Ekadashi to Krishna. So in some way you do the day work as diligently as possible and just offer to Krishna, because you gave me the energy or the intelligence, I do it. Because it's hard to, I know you give some points to put pointers there where you can intermediately remember. But practically in today's world, I don't know how far we can remember doing your duties.
It's a practical question, Prabhu. So Krishna definitely does not have an all or nothing solution, right? So as you mentioned, and Krishna says the same thing, that if you cannot work for me, you offer the fruits of your work to me. It's at a lower rung, right? So when he walks Arjun down the yoga ladder, then he says, I can understand there are some people who cannot have that consciousness that they're working for me. Don't worry, I have another stage for them, that they can offer the fruits of the results to me. And with that, they are able to reach the consciousness later on that yes, I'm working for them. Because it's definitely it's definitely a more challenging proposition. Why we want to do it is because that's the definition of Krishna consciousness, Prabhu. Definition of Krishna consciousness is being conscious of Krishna at all times. Right? We don't build compartments around Krishna. Rampal Maharaj had this analogy of my time and Krishna time. Right? You have this is my time, this is Krishna time, this is my pocket, this is Krishna pocket. So we create this barriers, and it's good when we're starting, but the destination is that there should not be a my pocket and Krishna pocket, right? That's a more materialistic thought. There should not be a my time and Krishna time. The idea is that what we think of my time is Krishna giving us my time. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Any other thoughts?
I just have another experience to share about this fruits of the results one, and which I think Rajchandri was also involved, and so was Padmini Radha and Sri Padma when we had made this jewelry for Nityananda appearance, and it was really we put our heart and our feelings into that jewelry, and we were so excited, and we were looking forward to seeing Nityananda wear the jewelry, and we were just so super excited. And then what happens is the pujari forgets, and the jewelry is not there on the deities, and it really broke our heart. I of course broke down also, and I wrote to Janava, and this is what Janava told me. And this didn't happen like once. It happened not only Nityananda, but it once happened on Janmashtami also. And every time Janava would write to me, don't be attached to to the results of your service. And for one or two times, it actually hurt me. I said like, she doesn't understand. I put in so much energy and my feelings into this service, and this is so cold of Janva to say such a thing. But then she was right. I think the problem was not her or the deities of Krishna. It was me that I was, getting too attached. Or rather, I got too attached, and my expectation was that, things should work my way, and Krishna must wear, and he should be looking, this way, that way, etc., etc. And because he did, so my heart broke. So I had to learn to detach myself. So in the future, this is what I keep in mind, that whenever I make music, okay, Krishna, I made it. Now it's up to you whether you want to wear it or you don't want to wear it, or whenever you want to wear it, I feel. So I try to keep that in mind. Just want to share that.
Yeah, thank you. And I think we all have experienced this one way or the other, where Krishna teaches us this lesson either from within or from without. That the more we begin to understand that Krishna is awarding us the results, that we are not the doer or the enjoyer, that helps. Maribel Mataji, is it Laddu Gopal or Rasundari?
Actually, you answered the question, answered the comment which I wanted to say. As like you progress on your path of Krishna consciousness, you understand that Krishna is the doer, and whatever results or fruitive results we want, Krishna is going to give us in one way or other. And if he wants to give us, that also matters. So as Mataji is saying the same thing, and Prabhu, you explained better. Thank you so much.
Very good point. Thank you, Mataji. Rupa Raghunath Prabhu? I think he raised by mistake.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Am I audible, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu, you're audible.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. I have a question, Prabhuji. So, it's all about balancing, right? Because, like you say, we are in two boats. and we have to prioritize our spiritual activities and sadhana, no doubt about it. That's why it's recommended we do it early in the morning, because our day gets so aggressive with respect to our work, etc. And I feel, given the aggression in today's time in the workplace, we sometimes forget to balance it well, or to draw a line. Sometimes it's not in our control. We have to put that extra energy, enthusiasm towards work. It has become the need of the hour almost on a daily basis. So my question is, Prabhuji, how to, on a practical basis, keep that balance? From your own example, the position that you own in your company, it's a very, sensitive and responsible job. And I always admire, how you do it with so many people, that you are managing and so much of portfolio. How is it feasible for, somebody as novice as me, both from a work perspective and from a spiritual perspective, to be able to, balance it out? Because more often than not, it slips from my perspective.
You're absolutely right, Prabhu. It's a challenge. It's like a treadmill that you have to run just to stay at the same at the same place. And as in everything, Prabhu, our journey begins with intention. So we just discussed about the various, or at least we discussed about 5 things that we can do, but ultimately it begins, even before that, it begins with intention. That would we like to develop this consciousness of being Krishna conscious at work, right? So like somebody might just say that, for me, just giving some amount of money from my work to Krishna, that is good enough for me, right? So then that's, in one way, the person is satisfied with that, and that journey stops there. But if the intent is to go further, that if I look at my day, the majority of my day I spend at work. Like most of us spend how much time? Between 8 to 10 hours to work. When we come home, we basically, out of the 24 hours, we spend some time sleeping, sometimes eating. So there's very little disposable time left at home. The bulk of our, what we call as our active prime time, is spent at work. And if somebody has that thought that I have this big chunk of I think that's what was motivating Adi Govind Prabhu to ask this question, that I have this big chunk of prime time that is at work, and that is not right now being optimally used in Krishna's service. How can I do that? And once that intent manifests, then as I said, by at least amongst other things, those 5 things, from a practical experiential basis, we were asking a little bit about me sharing my experience. So from a practical experiential basis, it's inevitable that at times work will suck you in, and if you're able to somehow or else recognize the fact that now I need to get my mind back, right? So there are times when I have to prepare for something, and then 1 hour goes, 2 hours goes, and the only thing that I'm thinking about is what I need to work on. And then after that, for me, taking a break is if I listen to a short lecture on YouTube or read a verse, maybe it'll take only a few minutes, but it's kind of like like one of those, I said, the physical cues that kind of reminds you again that the reason you're doing the work, the reason everything that is happening is because Krishna is allowing you to happen. I'm definitely not at the stage where it is second nature, where where we are automatically drawing your mind to Krishna every time you get the opportunity. But journey starts with a step. So just recognizing the fact that this is something that you would like to do, that itself is it's a huge step in that direction. And I'm wondering if anybody else would like to add their all of us are in almost identical situations. Anybody else would like to share?
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the answer. Can I also add a bit to my question, Prabhuji? I might thank you for your example, and it's very inspiring. I was also thinking abstracting it one level up, not on a day-to-day basis, but from an intentions perspective. Should we not aspire to go up the chain in the corporate world? Because inherently we have that desire to take a higher position, but on the converse, from a spiritual perspective, it only sucks us, more into it. And the example that you were giving during the class, that Prabhupada said the devotee not to stop working, but at the same time, just stay and don't overdo, don't over-endeavor, and stay put with what you are getting and what you are at, so that you find time for spirituality also, and it doesn't become a one-sided story. Any thoughts or comments on that, Prabhuji? How do we put that break or draw that line?
Yes, Prabhu. I think you kind of also alluded to the answer in the question, that aspiring to rise materially or in career, get a better position. That's an adhikar at that time, right? We are not at the stage where we are so spiritually elevated that we don't care for all that. As in everything, there is a golden mean, right? At some point, that endeavor might begin to eclipse our spiritual endeavors. That's when we start pushing the red button at that time, right? So as long as we can, as long as it does not interfere with our spirituality. So if we are able to balance it. So like when we were doing Nectar of Instruction, then second verse of NOI, right? Atyahara prayaschasya prajalpaniyamagraha. So prayaschas, prayaschas, and Prabhupada says is excessive material endeavor for something. So if our pursuit to rise in a career is consuming our very existence, this much is almost guaranteed that not only will it consume our spiritual existence, it will also consume our material existence. Because ambition is like a fire that will only burn brighter with the fuel that it gets. So Rupa Goswami gives this recommendation from both perspectives. That prayaschas is bad materially also, because it will destroy you materially also. We all have cases of people who were so obsessed with their work that they neglected their health, they neglected their family, and even then they were not satisfied, because there is always somebody who's going to be richer than you, more successful than you, who's going to be getting greater platitudes with lesser effort. There will always be, if not one person, if not 100%, at least 10 people who will be like that. So prayaschas not only destroys your spirituality, it also destroys you materially. So when we are in that zone where our desires for wealth or prestige or progress is consuming us to that extent, and that if you are not able to see it, that's why we built this association of devotees. If we ourselves are not able to see it, then we should ask our spiritual master, we should ask the other devotees around, get advice from them with an open mind, and then align ourselves. So it's good to aspire, but only till the point that it is not debilitating, it's not consuming us. Does that make sense, Prabhu?
Very much, Prabhuji. And the point, because we are always able to relate to things which were more tangible. And like you said, if it's impacting our other aspects of life beyond spirituality also, like you said, health, then that's an indication also. And of course, with the help of senior devotees and gurus, we can also figure out. Because sometimes it's this thing, right? It's very easy to slip. We don't even realize that we're declining in our spirituality. So yeah, I think that self-realization is important, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Adi Govind, Prabhu?
Prabhuji, one small last question, if I may. It's something on the similar lines as Rupa Raghunath Prabhu was also asking. It's about children and parenting. So, which one should we be aspiring to? I guess parents, should we be giving time to children, or working more so that we can offer them resources for their well-being?
That's an interesting question. I thought you were going to ask between children and chanting, or between children and deity worship, but I think you're talking more about in terms of me being home with my children, or me working and getting money so that I can give my children better facilities.
Right. Right.
I guess it's more of a, as in everything in these matters, it's more a matter of balance. There is essentially nothing to replace the personal time that you can give to the children. That of course is the most. Having said that, there needs to be some sustenance for the children. So if you're aspiring to make our children well adjusted, hopefully Krishna conscious, happy, right? A lot of parents earlier on, their ambition was that my child would become an IAS officer or an engineer or a doctor. Now I'm hearing a lot of parents, and this is not within the Krishna conscious community, but other community outside. I hear a lot of parents say that I want my child to grow up to be a happy person. So their focus is now they want the children to be happy. They say that this gen, whatever it is, that Z or whatever alphabet it is, they are the most laid-back generation of all times. That they have, from a relative perspective, they have the lowest level of ambition. They are satisfied with doing jobs that are well below their qualifications. They're willing to leave jobs and take lower-paying jobs if the job is more satisfying. Right. So for people in the older generation, especially the baby boomers and the generation after that, they were brought up in an environment where happiness was measured in terms of material things, how much money you're making, how big your house is. And now that is changing, even in the material perspective. And how do you get happy? How do you have happy adults? Is by having well-adjusted children. And how do you have well-adjusted children? I mean, not if they have 3 Nintendos and through to whatever it is, but if they can spend time with their mother and father and doing stuff, not just playing Nintendo, doing stuff with the parents. So my take on this is that there's a clear priority that we should prioritize our personal time with the children, with the understanding that we naturally don't want to slack off to the point where the kids are hungry all the time and you're spending time with them. So there should be enough that you take care of them, and that basic level should be there.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, and I also remember now that Narayani Mataji also got to grace us. She had shared a document where she had enlisted 4 areas: emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and physical. I think the part where you were saying that we have to make sure that they are not hungry. So I think we have to make sure that they are well satiated in all 4 domains as well, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, so maybe we'll just take 2 more. Laddu Gopal, I thought I saw your hand up, or you?
Yeah, I was just adding what Rajneesh Prabhu was doing. Like in my 4 years of job here, I saw 4 bosses went away. Those who are higher than me. So that is kind of telling me that the post which maybe I am aspiring that I will be one day there, that they are not happy. I don't see them happy. So now it takes away the air from me, the passion. That should I really inspire for that or no? I'm in a better place than them.
Wow, that's a good thought. Thank you for sharing. Ravi Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you very much Prabhuji for the wonderful class. It is so important for us. And I was just thinking, these 5 sutras is something that we need to, at least practice for some time so that it becomes second nature or like that. Because what I noticed is after a heavy day of work, the work and then doing the rest of the stuff, there is a gap, relaxing period. That relaxing period is more, the more you don't enjoy the work, we want more relaxing period, and then you start with our remaining rounds of chanting or those things. So I think that is one area that would improve, that these sutras will improve. And when you are summarizing, when you mentioned that point, when you mentioned the second point, Krishna empowering us to work, and he is the one who is awarding the results of work, that I felt is more solace or more acceptable for me than taking it as working as my responsibility. Somehow too much of the word of responsibility doesn't connect to me. But here, probably if possible now or later also, if you can give that explanation, because what I'm feeling at this point is, this is not something when work challenges come that I could stand on. Because as a principal I know, but when really the work is on me, at that time, okay, Krishna is empowering me to work, it doesn't push me. I need to have so much of side support to stand on that or to practice this principle. And so that's one point. And even the third point also is something like that. Part of the money that I am using it for Krishna, at this point all we are utilizing is very, very minimal. Probably I'm thinking we may need to expand our, in the means and ways how we contribute for Krishna's cause. So that also is the area I may need your guidance. So if you could elaborate on the point too, on Krishna is empowering and that part, and also if possible, do we have any lectures, Prabhuji, specifically on the work? Not general lectures, but work or acting in the right consciousness. Because even bits and pieces hearing during the work time, that kind of brings us back. because many times, sometimes due to work and sometimes due to people, work atmosphere always challenging. Everybody tries to push from their bucket to our bucket, and so
I think in terms of lectures, there are some lectures by Mahatma Prabhu on this. I know I heard, I listened to at least one when I was preparing for this class. There are some lectures by Radhanath Maharaj on this. It's not a lecture that is devoted to this, but he speaks about this as a general lecture. If you search for things like Krishna consciousness work, that's what I did. I put things like Krishna consciousness work, spirituality work. Spirituality at work gives a lot of other hits also, but if you put things like that, that might help you. And yes, I agree with you that it's the whole process of Gyan and Vigyan, Prabhu, that knowledge does not necessarily result into practice, but it's the first step to that. Right? How does knowledge get converted to practice? By practice itself. Right? We try and do it. We may be doing it 1% of the time. Then maybe we'll be doing it 2% of the time. But our contribution is that we should try and do it. We shouldn't get discouraged. That today, out of my 8 hours of work, I was only able to do this for 30 minutes. Yeah, maybe tomorrow it'll be 35 minutes. Maybe next year it'll be 40 minutes. So it's a process that we have to follow. It's not a switch that we can flip. The potency is in the process.
Yes, Prabhuji. And the first point is also very important, that our morning sadhana.
That we can make a conscious decision to say
Yes.
that sadhana is okay. So I think we'll stop. Okay, we'll take one last point from Indulekha and then we'll stop after that.
I just wanted to address Abhiko's point about children. And Adhiko, no matter, I should say this, that you put in your best, you give your best in the circumstances you are in, and yet be detached from the results. You have our son Job right in front of you as an example, and believe me, Vijay has seen that part of my life where it was crazy. I was taking him this activity and that activity and this, and along with my, Namhat and double service and Sunday school and blah, blah, blah. And it was crazy, but then what happens? Ends up dancing as his co-curricular. I mean, fine, he's done fine in his academics, but still, ultimately, like my husband says, it is all also a destiny. So don't worry, your children are in very good place. They are, in good association. You are giving them good guidance. You're doing your best as a parent. Even if you don't think that if you try to provide them really, really big fancy stuff or anything, you're putting an extra endeavor into giving this and that, it is going to change their life. जो उनका यहाँ होगा ना वही होगा. Of course, you're doing your best. They'll be fine. They'll do fine. Yeah. So don't worry.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so we will end now with Nursing Day prayers by who's singing the prayers?